Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Paps, the Rising VTuber and an artist, and today we're going to be working a little bit more on the comic. So I went a little ham this past week and finished the line art for page 4. That's all done and dusted. So now I kind of wanted to maintain that momentum and fix this hand before I move on and start up page 5. So yeah, let's just fix that hand real quick because it's kind of small, isn't it, too? Like, wait, no, that's just a thumb. No, that's still definitely kind of a small hand. But it's got tiny little baby hands. Is that arm length right? Hang on. I might want to extend this arm a little bit because this one on the left seems a little bit long. So let's just go ahead and do that. Yeah, let's just kind of take this thing apart and rework it from there. First the hand, though. Let's talk about the hand. Let's negotiate the hand first. Okay, that'll do. Okay, and I think, yeah, having the adjustments here helps a little bit with what this is supposed to be, which is the guy hitting himself on the head. Okay. So now, let's just extend this arm a little bit. Okay, we'll expand this part here. And then change this one up to include the elbow. Maybe we can just make this one just a little bit shorter. Or no, I think this one is the one we need to fix instead. So we can just expand it a little bit, add a little bit more meat on the bone there. There we go. Okay, let's just cross it up like this. Okay, that is done. So now what I'm going to do is what I actually came here for originally. I'm going to copy and paste the panel layout. First of all, let's add a gray background to this. Sometimes I have like one of those fancy gaming mouses, right? I wanted to get like a nice big one for my huge fat wrestler hands, which I am referring to with affection. By the by, I love my hands. They let me do lots of things, but the thing is that because it's a gamer mouse, it's got one of those like things that let you turn up the sensitivity of how fast it goes. So like I have a button. I tend to rest my fingers on the buttons pretty heavily. So what that translates to is the fact that sometimes I'll accidentally make it go faster or slower, or accidentally hit the left mouse key. So it goes. All right, we'll add the whatchamacall, what's not the draft layer, new layer. Here we go. Frame border folder. Hey, I said it right this time. Let's go. Shouldn't I already have one of these though? I feel like I feel like I should have already had one of these in here somewhere. Well, no time like the present. How do I? Okay, yes. And then just move this one around a little bit. If I can figure out how to do that. That'll be great. Can I just... Oh no, is that like... Wait, no, is that moving the whole thing or is that just curving it? Because if it's curving it, that is like sick and twisted. Imagine if like... I don't know why, but the idea of like a panel not being completely level is like viscerally upsetting to me. That being said, we only have 2 actual panels in here. We have this one up top here. And then we have another one, which I'm not sure how we're going to make it, actually. Let's see. Filter, selection from layer. Maybe there's like a frame border. Okay, let's try this, right? There has to be a way to turn this into a circle. Maybe with like one of the knife tools. Frame border, folder. Okay. Oh, here we go. Polyline frame. Or rectangle? Maybe there's like something here that we can use. Brush shape? No, that's for different panel border styles. That's not what we want. Maybe somewhere in the settings there's something like it. Figure, here we go. Alright, now we're cooking. Okay, let's get rid of this one, and then on this one here. Actually, no, bring it back. Bring back this one here. We're just gonna get rid of... No, delete only the border. We're gonna get rid of that border and substitute it with one of our own. In a sort of political power play. And in order to make this power play succeed... Oh, Christ, what did I do? Oh, here we go. Anyway, as I was saying, to make this ploy succeed, we will need to figure out the line width of the panel up above. Okay, shift that to the left, shift that up, shift that to the left. Okay, and this one. How thick are you? Welcome to the Salty Spittoon. How thick are you? No, I can't say that. I can't say that. The implications of that being the qualification you need to enter the Salty Spittoon. All right, we're going to move on from that. How do I... That's strange. There should be a... Oh, here we go. Yeah, let's get rid of this one. All right. So this is 10 pixels thick. So we'll do the same for this one. Yeah, that should give it some decent thickness. Perfect. Now, all we got to do is just 3 drawings. God, I love my job sometimes. This isn't my job, just to clarify. But I mean my work. Anyway, as I was saying, we need to... Now that we've done all that, we just need to grab the... whatchamacallit, 3D folder from here. Move that all the way up. Actually, couldn't we just copy and paste this panel? I think we could. Hold up, let me try this. Okay, delete that. Move these rubes up here. Please tell me I separated the layers nicely. Yes, let's go. Okay, and from here I can just kind of brain out where I need to put everything. Ah, blessings upon man. Okay. I will need to slightly rework it, though. Just a little bit, though. But first, let's figure out a... Actually, what should we figure out first? I think the first move is to remove this and have the poses be a little bit more accurate, because I tried working with the poses last time on the last panel and it was very smooth. Yeah. I don't know. The thing about the poses is that I like to think that drawing freehand gives me faster results. But the problem is that drawing freehand actually takes more time due to the kind of reworkings that I have to do on it. So what ends up happening is that I will spend 5 minutes setting up a scene maybe, and then suffer for like 30 minutes, or I can suffer for 30 minutes and then rework it for 30 more. And usually then I'll just set up a new scene anyway. It can be quite difficult, huh? Well, that's fine. I have fun either way, so I'm not really going to complain. Okay, move this aside. Let's swing this guy's hips around a little bit. I like to imagine that he's just kind of been thrown off balance by just how quickly Hawk approached. What would be a good pose basis for this one? May grab shoulders. Well, let's look for a couple of other of these. Actually, this one might be good. Okay, let's swing her around. I will keep the background though. That's definitely something that can stay. Okay, a little bit to the left. Perfect. Oh, even the hands are kind of in the right position. Let's go. Okay. So we'll switch it around like this. And then from there, I'm going to do something very clever, which I haven't thought of just yet. But oh, just you wait. Okay, and then we can just bring this up around, further back. What is the direction that this is going in? What is your problem, little man? Okay, here we go. I lost track of the rifle. Oh, this is huge. Hang on, I need to make it a little smaller. Okay, and then bring that backwards a little bit. Maybe make it a little bigger. Okay, switch it around. It needs to be even further tilted, I think, because otherwise it's not going to clip through the other set of hands, or otherwise this other set of hands aren't quite reaching. Come on, buddy. We've almost got it. Okay, we'll need to switch it around a little more even. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so then the next step I think would be slightly lowering all. We'd lower just a little bit, I think, just to kind of compensate for everybody now suddenly being in the same frame. Also, we're gonna make this guy a little bit shorter, so that he, or maybe we should make Hawk a little bit bigger with the rifle. Yeah, I like the idea of Hawk being just slightly taller than this bumbling wannabe soldier boy. You know, I saw the announcement for Clip Studio Paint version 3.0 today, and I think I might be seated for that one. I'm not gonna lie. I think I might be I might be getting that day one. Or if it ever goes on sale, I might be upgrading it because I saw some features in there that genuinely made my mouth water a little bit. Like I was like a shark smelling blood. Like we've got better options for, kind of like what this is, joining 3D objects to the poses. And also, in addition to that, it can also make transparent GIFs, which is huge for me. Like I'm talking like that's been something that's been genuinely bothering me from day one that I can't make transparent GIFs. If they somehow manage to do that, and then in another version they have like the ability to import GIFs from .gif files, I think I think I might be set for life. I think that's genuinely like all the features that I could want in a program. Like I cannot stress to you enough just how fucking tedious making any GIF was before being able to make them transparent. Because you see, like for example, for the model that I have here, right, that I'm talking to you through right now, to make that model, I had to make the animation first, which is, obviously going to be the hardest part. But then I had to export the animation as a .gif file to the sprite sheet site, and then manually remove like the white border around everything. Being very careful because otherwise, if I export it too carelessly, my ass is just going to be like pixelated because of bad compression. I was saying something else. Why the hell are the boxes on here? Oh, I see how it is. Okay, just a little to the left. There we go. Also, we might need to make everyone even smaller. And I think that's a good move as well, because otherwise what's going to happen is that I'll make this, and then Raph is going to say to me, hey, can you make the characters a little bit smaller because I don't have enough space to add the text? And I'm going to have to be like, okay, this is future-proofing. Yeah, we can't make, as much as I think it would be funny and awesome, we can't just make Hawk a hulking woman. She does need to be like believably an underdog. Also, I think I might have messed up with the angles on this just a little bit, didn't I? No, I lowered everything. I see. Hang on. Grab this, alley-oop. Okay, now I need to make everybody a little bit taller again. Whoops. That's fine though. That's a quick fix. Yeah, because now they have too much room to talk. Wait, what? No, wait. When did? Huh? Okay, something went terribly wrong here. No, wait. I hate it. I hate it when Clip Studio's 3D. No, I can't delete this layer because that's. You know, I take it back. I'm not. I hope this program burns to the ground before version 3.0 comes out. I've completely reversed my stance vis-a-vis Clip Studio Paint. Celsius can go pound sand. Okay, we might want to bring this in a little bit more. Wait, I know how to fix this. We can zoom out a little bit. Okay, and then let's take a look at how the background has been developing. Okay, I see what we need to do now. I hope it does not get any more complicated because I do not need that drama in my life. There we go. Okay, now for these losers. Yeah, let's just draw them from scratch. Hawk as well. Actually, screw it. This whole layer can just be a fresh start. All right. We drag this down here. Perfect. We're going to use these points to make the lines of the chest. I don't know. Would you call this more of a chest or a trunk? Or like a container, I guess. I feel like it's a very kind of, you know how like in all sci-fi movies they call the local currency credits, while in all fantasy they call it some shit like gold. Or I think it's a very similar situation, calling it chests, gold, and container. Or rather, chest, container, and like trunk. I feel like chess is definitely more like high fantasy vibe. You know, like if you were playing like a fantasy game, you would open up a chest for the loot. Conversely, if you were playing like a sci-fi game, it would be a container. Okay, let's grab these one more time and then move it over here. Let's tuck away this thing too, because it's just kind of eating up screen space. Okay, we'll grab this, flip it around. I've learned recently that unless I'm very meticulous about which layers I have active, I need to be very careful with how far out of frame the lines that I use stretch, because if I am not careful, they'll actually eat into other frames and they'll affect the coloring and the erasing. And that's going to be a whole production. So yeah, better to just take a little bit of care first. I keep thinking to myself that I need to make a hobby out of like destroying old garbage or something, because I feel like in a lot of hobbies, the problem is that in order to do them, you actually need to think quite a lot. This is true for martial arts, fighting games, drawing, stuff like that, where you actually need to think quite a bit when you do it. Maybe initially not so much, right? Initially, you can just kind of like go like brain offline. Earlier today I was trying out King of Fighters, a game that I didn't realize I had in my Steam library, and it was fine. But I recognize almost immediately that if I wanted to have any kind of meaningful fun or progression with this game, I would need to put a lot of hours into it, and I would have to think a lot while I did it. I don't know. There's a lot of people talking about like anti-intellectualism these days, right? Like the fact that nobody wants to think too hard about what they consume or the messages of what they're trying to share actually have, right? Or rather, it's also the idea that if you can't say it in layman's terms, it's not worth thinking about. That's definitely not an opinion I share. I don't think that that's true at all. It's fine if you can summarize something, or if you can have, if you can have a little bit of fun, kind of like grossly misinterpreting something, right? But it's also important to kind of have that genuine understanding of it, if it's something that genuinely interests you. In any case, I try to like not begrudge my own intellectualism, which sounds like me flexing on my IQ. It really isn't. I'm just saying that I feel like a lot of the hobbies that I have somehow turned into me having to think way too much. And I think if that keeps happening, I'm gonna have to go like monkey mode on like a box, on like a cardboard box, just one day. Just really let myself just like tear it apart with my teeth. No thoughts, no martial arts, just pure instinct and animalistic rage. To be fair, I've probably done a lot of thinking this year to begin with. I've had to think a lot this week in general. So maybe that's also been contributing a little bit. Maybe I'm just burnt out on thinking for the foreseeable future, which isn't good because I actually need to think quite often. As much as I like to present myself as like a lovable goofball, I do want to take my own intelligence very seriously. I do want to feel like I have the knowledge that I need to succeed, even if sometimes acquiring that knowledge kind of sucks. Yeah, speaking of the knowledge that I recently acquired, uh, one of the things that I've been researching, right, for a story for like one of my original characters, is that I'm trying to figure out more about how martial arts families come to be. So usually martial arts are passed down. Martial arts are sometimes created. Martial arts can be created through anything, right? Sometimes sometimes it's like folk wrestling, right? Where it's just a thing that people do that can't really be codified into any particular martial art, but is like a style, right? Like folk wrestling came about because people kept gathering for like these games in ancient Europe, and they were like, "Hey, man, wrestling is kind of fun. We should include these in the games." And everybody was like nodding in agreement and being like, "Yes, this guy gets it." And then eventually that became like a regional style of fighting, and eventually became like the catch as catch can and folk wrestling styles that we know today. So that's like one way that they have, and other ways include like military traditions. So for example, a lot of the karate and karate. I sometimes I can't figure out whether I should pronounce things with like, because there's no way I can pronounce them with like the genuine enunciation, right? So, sometimes it's very difficult for a non-native speaker to like say the way that the say the name of the martial art correctly. Like karate, I have like Spanish and English speaking modes. And like 90% of the time, if I'm trying to pronounce an unfamiliar word, I will use the Spanish pronunciation. You know, like karate, I would pronounce as karate because that's how I would say it in Spanish. But sometimes I'm too deep in the English sauce and I kind of forget to remember to forget it. And I'll be like, karate. Like I'm some fucking Californian dude. It's a little embarrassing, if I'm being fully honest. I forgot that I was Latino for all of 3 seconds while I said that word. But yeah, I was doing some research into like specifically situations where it was like a family who founded a style and have been the main people to pass it down. The most prominent example of that is probably the Gracie family, who were basically the Nikola Teslas of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Right, like the Gracie family were like the ones who popularized Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and a lot of the knowledge we have of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came from them. They were the Brazilians who made the Jiu-Jitsu. They were the Brazilians in question in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But the story that behind their foundation was basically that their father, like the patriarch of the clan, Carlos, I believe, was, hang on. I don't really remember what like Carlos's deal was, but I do remember that he got into a lot of fights. That's like something I noticed when I was researching these styles, is that almost universally the kind of like big daddy patriarchs of the martial arts clan in question were usually dudes who got into a lot of fights as children. And their parents were like, well shit, we can't just like let them do that. We need like some kind of we need some kind of improved outlet for this. And usually they introduce it to a martial arts teacher. It happened twice, but I'm pretty sure it's kind of like a running. I have the distinct impression it's like a running theme across the different family style martial arts. Because it happened because like it was like I believe that Carlos Gracie was super interested in jiu-jitsu after he got a demonstration from a jiu-jitsu master, and then he actually like spent a substantial amount of time trying to track down that master and learn from people who learned from him, who were in Brazil. Yeah, like I remember that his family used to live in Belém, and then they moved to Rio de Janeiro later. And in Belém, there was this jiu-jitsu master who taught him some basics, and then they moved to Rio de Janeiro. But then Carlos wanted to learn more martial arts, and so he kind of tried to find whoever he could who had connections to that master. Which is an interesting story, but not the one that I kind of had in mind. I wanted like an example of somebody who kind of independently created a martial art. And the closest one that I had was this dude. Oh, hell yeah. Rice Beast time. There we go. The closest one that I could find for that was the founder of this like traditional style karate school called what's his name? Motobu Choki. Motobu Choki. Yeah, Motobu Choki was the name of the guy who founded the Motobu Ryu School of Karate. Karate. And his story was that he actually came from like the royal family of Ryukyu. So for those of you who don't know much Japanese history, Ryukyu is what we now today call the Okinawan Islands. I believe they were under control of China for a long, long time, until sometime in the 20s or 40s or whatever, where Japan took back control of it. Or I guess they took control of the period. Japan has... It's hard to not call it colonialism for the Ryukyu Islands. I don't know. Even today, like there's still some like territorial shit going on in between Okinawa and Japan, from what I understand. Like it's not like, Okinawa is like an island off of Japan's other off of the island of Japan. They're like at the island of an island. So it's a little bit. So I don't know like the politics of it. I'm not wise enough to the politics of it, but I do know that Japan basically took back the Ryukyu Kingdom, as it was called at the time, and that had a bunch of people who knew martial arts from China, because again, Chinese control. And then what ended up happening is that that's how kind of karate got its start. Is that it got like some inspiration from the schools of Okinawa, and that's kind of how it got started. And so Motobu Choki, the guy that I was researching, was a descendant, like a royal descendant, like the king. I think he was like the son of like the cousin to the king or some shit. Like he was pretty high up on like the hierarchy. The problem is that like he was a third son, right? So first son, big badass, right? Big fucking deal. The first son in terms of royal lineage. Second son, not so much a big a deal. He can get some licks in, and he's next in line. So pretty. You want to keep a backup around at least. Third son though, that's when shit starts to get a little bad for you, because the first son is like the go-to guy. Then you've got the second son, who is more like a stage backup, right? In case, so he still gets a little of the attention, but not nearly as much as the first guy. But you, third son, things are not looking good for you. So this gave him a little bit of a temper. He had a little bit of a temper issue, Motobu Choki. So he got into fights a lot because of that. So his parents were like, "Shit, we can't just like let him do that whenever he wants. That's gonna reflect badly on us, the royal family." So they basically hired this dude who knew karate to teach Choki to kind of channel that anger in a constructive way. But unfortunately for pretty much everybody involved, Choki kind of like took these lessons and then were like, "This shit's kind of boring though." And so, but he was like eager to learn the martial arts. And so what ended up happening is that he would learn the martial arts techniques during the day, and then he would go to the red light district nearby at night and essentially pick fights with people in order to test out those techniques. So he was kind of a dickhead, to be honest. God. But yeah, very reasonable thing to do. Hey, I learned this cool new technique from my master. I guess I should find somebody to use it on. And the problem is, like, he's royalty too, so you can't really tell him no. Like, yeah, third son, but like, he's still royalty. He's still like leagues ahead of you in terms of social rank. He could have your ass executed or some shit. So it was a little bit of a problem, but people kind of turned a blind eye to it. But yeah, after that, he started to kind of develop his style in these street fights, and eventually he decided to depart from Okinawa to mainland Japan to start up dojos. This did not go well for old Motobu, because you see, like I said, he had a little bit of a temper, so he couldn't really. The thing about martial arts in Japan at the time is that they were as much a political thing as like an actual like office, right? Like the guy who invented Shotokan Karate, the founder of the Shotokan Karate School, what's his name? Gichin Funakoshi, who founded the Shotokan School, was kind of a, he was definitely like lower. He definitely wasn't on the level of royalty, but he had a much better success rate in mainland Japan, mainly because for a variety of reasons. We'll get into those later. But basically, Motobu's school didn't do too well for reasons we'll get into. And, he has a little bit of a temper. So when he hears that this other Okinawan dude, Gichin Funakoshi, is killing it out there and getting decent schools, he kind of wants a piece of this guy. He kind of wants to see what he's made out of. So he goes to Gichin's dojo, challenges Gichin to a fight. Like, he arranges a fight with Gichin, whoops his ass in front of everyone and God 3 times in a row, And then he's like, yeah, nah, you ain't shit, brother, and leaves. Gichin understandably was not happy about this situation. And so what he did is that so this kind of beef between them ended up evolving into Gichin. Well, I don't know to what extent it was Gichin's influence and to what extent it was just Motobu not having the right kind of outlook. Because again, royalty. The dude is like built different mentally, right? Not in a good way, mind you. Like he's not used to like real politicking and kind of like sucking up to people in mainland Japan the way Gichin might have been. Because again, like the Ryukyu kingdom was seen as kind of like this territory to be kind of colonized, I believe. And so, or unless I'm getting the history of it wrong, but basically, Gichin was much better at navigating the political landscape of the martial arts world in mainland Japan than Motobu was. And so he was the one who ended up founding the famous school, whereas Motobu kind of, got told to pound sand by pretty much everyone in God. Anyway, yeah, but the thing is, like, Motobu was genuinely the better fighter of the two. Yeah, he did have a school though. Like, I think the Motobu Ryu school is still around, if greatly diminished. Like, it wasn't ever popular per se, but it's still around, I believe. Yeah, I think it was like succeeded by his son eventually, and then his son had it succeeded by this other guy, and it was like a whole succession thing. But yeah, it also didn't help that like Motobu's curriculum of martial arts was very small. You see, okay, so in karate, you've got like three major cornerstones, right? You have the kihon, which are the basics. That's like the basic stuff that you see. Like, this is like this is like a normal punch. This is the something or other tsuki. This is like the reversal punch. This is the Ikigakatsuki. It's the basic names of all the moves and being able to execute them correctly. Then you have the kata, which are pre-arranged sequences of moves. So I actually studied Shotokan karate for a little while, and I actually got to go to karate classes for a little while. It was some of the best days ever. To get my yellow belt, I basically had to show that I knew the kihon that they wanted me to show, and that I knew the steps to the Heian Shodan kata, which is like the very first beginner's kata. It's like the basics of the basics, right? And then you're a yellow belt. So Shotokan has a big emphasis on kata as part of its curriculum. As you progress through the belt ranks, you're expected to learn more and more complex and long kata. I think like the longest one has like 70 plus movements. Like the Heian Shodan has like 20 for reference. And they keep increasing in complexity. They keep like I think there's also like a written component tested after some points. It's kind of incredible. Then there's kumite, which is the practical application of moves. So that you can think of this as like sparring, basically, or like attack and defense drills. It's basically you and another guy kind of going up to each other and kind of agreeing on what you're going to do and then doing it. So you're like, okay, I'm going to attack like the kumite that I was in for a little while, right? Was basically just knowing this kind of attack drill, which is I attack twice and you block twice. You block both of those attacks, and then you attack me twice, and I block both of those attacks. It's a very simple one, but yeah, that's like the idea of kumite. It can get more varied as well, right? It can be like free sparring, which is like kind of like what you see in martial arts movie of like students just beating the shit out of each other, but obviously holding their punches a little bit. But yeah, that's the idea behind kumite. So there's kata, kihon, and kumite. And like I said, Shotokan, big emphasis on kata. They love kata. And kata is like a brother to them. For the Motobu Ryu school, though, Not so much. They had a much higher emphasis on kumite. In fact, they actually only had like one big kata, which was the naihanchi, I think it's called. So yeah, they kind of focus on the naihanchi. Like that was like Motobu's favorite kata. Like he loved that thing. He loved those movements. They learned that, and I think there were a couple others that he would teach them on request. So like he wouldn't teach them as part of the normal curriculum. You would like have to ask him, "Yo, hey sensei, I figured out the Naihanchi. Can I learn another one?" And he'll be like, "Sure, okay." But if you haven't mastered the Naihanchi, he'll be like, "Nah, you're not ready. You're not ready for those." Like there was a huge emphasis on just getting one or two kata and then just refining them over and over and over. There's also some other key differences. Like it has one of the more. There's like this practice called what was it called? Like omotore or something like that. Hang on, it was called like it means something like married hands, basically. It's this idea that you have to like let me like draw a diagram of it. It's like the idea is that you have the supporting hand and your attacking hand, right? And it's important to keep them together. It's actually a lot like Wing Chun in that you have to be very sticky, right? You have to kind of stick to close to your opponent. So the supporting hand would do stuff like grab and deflect blows, whereas the attacking hand attacked. I don't think it gets very complicated, but like for example, the idea was that you would kind of like slide between a strike from your opponent, grab them with the supporting hand, and then beat the crap out of them with the other hand. A lot of it was this kind of very fluid grabbing and snaking of the hands around. It was very cool from the few demonstrations that I saw. It had a lot of throwing and grappling, which you don't actually see very much of in Shotokan karate and such. But yeah, so the problem with having like only one kata to practice in this curriculum is that it kind of gets old, right? You go to so let me put it like this, right? You have on the one hand Shotokan, where you would have like you go to the dojo, you train your body for a little while, you learn to move it and control it in an organized sequence with a little bit of sparring here and there. And then you have the Motobu Ryu dojo, where you show up to class to do the same kata every single time and then spend the rest of class time getting the shit kicked out of you by the other students, and also your master, who is one of the most hardcore motherfuckers to ever walk the earth and can also have you executed. So it's a little less approachable. It's so funny. It's genuinely really funny. So yeah, that was like one of the big issues, is that like the students would learn because the other thing is that in terms of kumite, that was like the big emphasis as well. Like Motobu Ryu School had like three big emphases, which were the hand conditioning, which you do with this thing called the makiwara, which is like the equivalent of like a punching bag, but it kind of conditions your hand as well. So you would beat on a makiwara, you would beat on other students with a ton of kumite. Like kumite was like one of the big things in there, because Motobu Ryu, being the guy that he was, wanted to emphasize like practical applications. So what he did is that he ended up making like these very famous 12 kumite things, where essentially it's like micro simulations of what happens if you get attacked. His son actually went on to make like 50 more, which good for him. But he really emphasized kumite. So, like I said, it was just one kata and 50 things of kumite, which get old really fast because again, they're just drills. They're just like sparring drills. Unless you wanted to like go on like a free sparring match with your partners, they might not be up to it. Your sensei might be up to it, but then you would get your shit kicked again. You would catch the most official hands to ever come out of Ryukyu, so that wouldn't be particularly fun. I imagine. Oh god. So yeah, basically he ended up teaching like 5 things, and then his students would get bored, and then they would leave in like 6 months, which is again another reason why he just did not thrive while Shotokan went on to live a healthy life. Present to this day. God. It's always kind of interesting to learn about like what makes or breaks a martial arts style, because you kind of realize after a while that it is very much like a business, right? It's politics and business, especially because I think it's especially because of the fact that martial arts is a weapon, right? Particularly in, before the kind of the sportsification of it all, there were a lot of learning martial art was basically like the equivalent of like buying a gun or something. It's as close as you could get to buying a gun without actually buying a gun. Because like at that point you were essentially training to kill someone, right? You were essentially saying nowadays that we have like actual weapons around, like guns and knives and all that other junk, and you can just buy them off of like Amazon for $40, less sometimes, depending on how high your standards are. Right? Like, no, somebody knowing karate is like is like menacing, but it's not a particularly big threat in the grand scheme of things. But back then, like knowing how to kill somebody with your bare hands was kind of a big deal. So yeah, a lot of it is like politics. A lot of it is just like deciding who gets to carry on their legacy. And the qualifications usually are the same as they are for a lot of other things, which is that people have to like you, and that you have to be kind of able to play ball, if you will. It's still so funny, like that the Grand Master, like the patriarch, like the founding dude, the founding figure of the karate that I learned, got his ass whooped silly 3 times in a row. It, I say 3 times in a row, like they were like separate matches. It was this thing, right? It's this martial arts thing from Japan where basically you kind of like sidle up to each other and put it's getting close first, and then let me draw it out. So it's you have person A here, kind of like in the order in like a martial arts stance, and they would have their hand outstretched here, and then you would have person B who is doing something very similar but in like the opposite direction, who also has their hand outstretched, crossing the person A's arm. They basically got into that stance. They got that close, and then Motobu knocked the Funakichi over, and that happened 3 times in a row. And then Motobu left. God, it's kind of ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous that these two people who are both extremely competent martial artists seem to just have this beef for no reason other than ego. Again, I'm assuming that a lot of it must have been like the temperament that because I'm not assuming that Funakichi was a reasonable person by any means. I figure he also must have had some shady shit going on in the background somehow. But I'm guessing that Motobu's a lot of it was just like how abrasive Motobu could have been, because from everything that I understand, like all the history that I've learned about this guy, he seemed to be kind of a dickhead. He seemed to be a little bit of a genuine dickhead. Okay, there we go. Okay, then after that, we need to grab this and just keep doing the fingers. Yeah. I've always found it a little bit sad, right? Like when a martial arts is kind of lost because either nobody is able to practice it or because everybody who, either because it just kind of became obsolete or, how do I put this? It's not that it becomes obsolete in a lot of cases. It's like it's just lost because nobody practices it or because the one dude who knew how to do it suddenly dies. It's always a little bit sad to me. The only example where I can think of that it didn't sadden me is because there was like this one dude. I don't know. I don't know how much of the story is hearsay, but I remember reading it from a few different sources that there is actually one dude who still knows like the genuine ninja way, like that. There's I don't know if he's still alive. Actually, he might have died by now. I remember reading this a while ago, and I don't know how much time he had left, so to speak. But there was like this one dude who was still trained in ninja assassination arts. Like this guy was a genuine, honest to god ninja, and he decided to not take on any students anymore because it is basically the art of killing someone. Like it is like genuinely something that is only used for murder. And he was like, yeah, nah, this has to end with me, I think. So he's just not going to pass anything down. He's not going to choose an heir or a student or anything. He's just going to let it die. And I can respect that. That's actually it's a very peaceful decision. It's one that kind of upholds peace. So that's a lot of why I can respect it. But there's also other situations where like somebody just the practice either just dies out or there's just nobody left to practice it, or it gets superseded by other more efficient styles or something. There's lots of different reasons why it might happen. But I realized even if it doesn't die out, it dies in like other ways, right? Like I was talking about how this the founder of Shotokan Karate, he was definitely like thinking of preserving karate as it was, but I don't think there were it's hard to say that karate has been preserved. Like there was this one video I saw of this guy who actually went to China in order to figure out like the roots, because a lot of karate is, again, a lot of Chinese control into the Ryukyu kingdoms. Ryukyu kingdoms spawned karate. Karate became Japan's martial art, and the kind of story circles back around. So everything that is from karate came at some point from kung fu before it was codified. Like the origins of karate lie in kung fu. So this one YouTuber went on a journey to like find the roots of the kung fu that was used to create karate. So you kind of realize as well that it's changed. It's always the ones that have the longest lineages which change the most, because as time goes on, you need to do different things to adapt those styles to the changing eras. And sometimes that's just to like essentially extinguish the original versions of those styles and let them die a little bit. And that's not exactly, it's not a cheerful thought by any means, but it happens. Okay, let's see here. I did say that karate's original influences were from kung fu. It has a lot of different influences now, right? Like obviously, the kind of like successors of I keep forgetting this dude's name. Funakoshi. The kind of like successors of Funakoshi didn't just sit on their asses for after their master passed away. They kept finding like new ways to kind of like change the style up. So one of the things that I found out was apparently like a lot of the high kicks in karate actually come from this French martial art called savate, which has the most hardcore origin story ever. Savat is for the French word for like tough shoe or like boot. You know, it's like sabaton, which is boot. And the origins of this place is that a bunch of sailors who used to wear like really tough working shoes would just beat the shit out of each other on the regular in like the port, and they realized that hey, you know, we wear these heavy stupid shoes. We could use these as weapons because at the time in France, the laws treated you hitting someone with your open with your closed fist, like punching them, like actually punching them, as using a lethal weapon. So if somebody got it, you know, murked during a fight, or God forbid, like they just got injured and lived to tell the tale, they could charge you for like using a lethal weapon. So they were like, yeah, let's just kick people instead and slap them a little bit. It also had a little bit of slapping involved on account of the, you know, if you hit them with an open hand, it doesn't really count as a lethal weapon. So they just developed these incredibly crisp kicks that used the point of the toe as the basis of it. And so the Japanese eventually saw that and were like, shit, that's awesome though. And now they're in karate. A lot of the high kicks came from that, apparently. It's genuinely really funny. It's so funny. Like I said, they keep getting transformed because it's like that one moment from Yakuza 0 where Kiryu sees somebody doing some insane martial arts shit and he goes like, "That's rad," and then he gets inspiration for a new style. That's literally what happens, and it happens constantly. God, like I said though, it's nothing to really be sad about. It just kind of happens. Should I take a drink of water? I kind of want to take a drink of water. I should drink it. Now I'm gonna drink some water. Yeah. Yeah, I saw a video of some people practicing Sabat, and it's interesting as well because a lot of it focuses on a lot of the what I saw in the video was them practicing low kicks and how to parry them. And it's really interesting because they use the shins for a lot of it. You know, you attack the shins, you hit the shins, and then you block with the shins. You like the shins are both defensive tool, and they're also like a striking point. So they end up getting a lot of work. Okay, let's shift this over here. Okay. Shift this around. Perfect. All right, we'll copy this line again. And just shift these last two around a little bit to mend it. Okay. Perfect. After that, we can start working on the... should we do the scope right now? I think we can do the scope right now. Let's do the scope right now. Okay, we shift it forward and then bring this around. Okay, bring that forward. Again here. God, this is so much easier to work with because The problem is that I rounded off the corners of this in the design, and it looks good that way, and it's also what I need for this panel down here. But sometimes from different angles, it's kind of difficult to get the actual idea for how to round it. Okay. Add one here. Perfect. Okay. We'll add the pockets right here. And then here as well. Flip this around. Okay. Chest here. In terms of what to do, let's finish the gun first. Let's make sure that the gun is finished, and then we can move on. Okay, switch that around. Huh. You know, I talked a little bit of shit about Gichin Funakoshi today. I do wonder if that's like considered like grounds to remove my yellow belt. I mean, I don't think any of my old karate classmates know that I'm a VTuber now, and I don't think if they do, none of them watch me for certainly. If they did, I would be fucking surprised because I never told any of them that I went to those classes before I started VTubing. So if by some, it's a small world though. It's not impossible that it should happen, but I am going to say that it's very unlikely. That one, the people who knew me from those days will watch these live streams, and that two, they will care hard enough to essentially like strip me of my ranking. That would be like a grade A genuine born hater maneuver. That would be so funny. Imagine if somebody got doxxed, but instead of like telling them their address, they like get red rights for getting a fucking black belt from a McDojo. That would be dude. The beef. I'm glad that more VTubers and content creators aren't martial artists because otherwise the beef would be insane. Like, imagine any YouTuber drama where they could literally show up to each other's house and run the ones for like 3 days in a row. I kind of want to see it. I feel like it would be more peaceful than whatever it is that we do now, which I guess is just hear about somebody getting canceled and then not really do anything about it. You know, a lot of people talk shit about getting canceled, being canceled, cancel culture. It doesn't really do anything, does it? 90% of the idiots who I hear get canceled are still around. If anything, they seem to be thriving. I don't know why they keep bitching about it. No, that's not true. I imagine that it is very stressful in the turn of the moment, but at the same time, I can't. For most of these people, they have done heinous things, so it's hard to say I feel. It's hard to say I don't feel bad for them, but it's also hard to say that I feel bad for them. It's a complicated feeling. Like, yeah, it sucks that happened to you, but also maybe stop doing the thing that made that happen. Believe it or not, riling a mob into a murderous frenzy is actually much harder than it seems. Or maybe it isn't as much. I don't know. I've never riled a mob. I've never been canceled. Hell, I don't know what I could be canceled for, generally speaking. Being too handsome? Yeah, they take me to my court proceedings and show evidence that I'm just too damn cool. My smoke was too tough. My swag was too different. Ay, Dios mío. Also, it occurs to me that by putting... Oh, no, wait. Oh, wait, no, I can make this work, actually. Never mind. This is fine, actually. All right, here's what I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to remove the references that I had originally, and I'm going to... Actually, I'm going to re-add the references that I had originally, and then I'm going to add those in a different vector layer. That way I can just sketch the helmets without needing to worry about the disastrous effects of trying to reconcile three different reference layers at once. Okay, so let's get it started. Okay, we'll add this here. God. I do remember one time. This was a really stupid conversation, and I'm not sure he was telling the truth. I remember that one time as a joke, we were discussing like different like we were talking about like getting sick, right? Like we heard that a lot of people have been getting sick recently, and we've been kind of worried about different like types of illnesses. And I remember for some reason I said the phrase "Lyme disease is a chump's illness." And like one of the guys that I was chatting with suddenly turned to me and said like, "My dad has Lyme disease." And again, I don't know if he was just fucking with me or anything. I think that's the only time I've ever doubled down. I'm sure Lyme disease is nothing pleasant to experience, though. But I am going to say it's kind of incredible that you got bodied by a bug, of all things. Like, it's definitely not pleasant, but I just cannot... Maybe it's because I wear pants all the time, but I cannot imagine getting my shit rocked by a tick. I just cannot. I'm sorry. Watch this. Next summer, I'm going to get Lyme disease, and I'm going to have to walk this back. I did actually spend today setting up a thing so that I could like get healthcare virtually, which is going to be important in the future because I do not have a family doctor, and apparently that's kind of a big deal here. And I still somewhat remember my family doctor from when I was a kid. Dr. Pino, if you're out there, blessings to you. Let's see. Yeah, shout out to my childhood doctor, Dr. Pino. He was a real one. I do hope he's doing well. I hope everybody that I grew up with back in my home neighborhood is doing okay. Nobody really knows what the future holds, but it's hopefully it turned out well for them. Okay, we'll open this. This is like one of the nicest, smoothest helmets I've drawn in a while. Okay, then I definitely use the helmet reference for this one. Ain't no way that I drew all these by hand. I'm probably going to use another layer. Once I start coloring this, I'm going to probably put another layer on top to show, to kind of like have some smear lines between them. Okay. Switch this around. Yeah, I don't know. Is Lyme disease a controversial topic? I feel like it kind of isn't. Like, I don't think anybody wants to get it for sure, but like, I don't reckon it's a particularly offensive subject. I don't know. It might be a sore point for some people. Like, I reckon that if you've had Lyme disease, you don't want to hear some dumbass on the internet talking about how it's a chump's illness. I think you might take some offense to that. I mean, how many cases of Lyme disease are there in every year? Hang on. Lyme disease cases 2023. All right, let's see here. Okay, it's actually gone. Okay, the problem with this, right, is that it's the reported number of Lyme disease cases. So in 2009, there were 144 across Canada, and in 2022, there were 2,168, which is a lot. Huh. I don't know. Why did it increase like that? Like it's been increasing a lot. Like that's more than that's like 1,000% increase, isn't it? Yeah, no, like that's like more than 1,000% increase. What the fuck? Why is it? Why are so many people getting Lyme disease? I don't know if it's this can't be like a monitoring thing because like even if it was, it would like cap out somewhere in the middle, right? Like it would be like it would go from like it would jump one year from like 2,000 to like 300 to like 900 or something. But no, it's been like a gradual, steady increase. Although, okay, so in 2017 there were 2,000 cases. In 2018 there were 1,400 cases. 2,634, big jump. Goes back down in 2020, goes way back up in 2021, 3,100 cases. And then in 2022 preliminary, it's 2,100 cases. Huh. That's so weird, though. Like, why did it keep getting. Why does it keep increasing? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, like, because of, like, climate change, the conditions for ticks to become more numerous have increased, and maybe that's why there's been, pun intended, an uptick of cases. But that doesn't really explain. That wouldn't cause such a drastic increase, I don't think, unless there were just like a real high number of them. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know too much about epidemiology to kind of like comment on this either way. But that seems like it's a lot, right? Like that feels like a lot. Still, I mean, across the entirety of Canada, only 2,000 cases. That's not very much at all in the grand scheme of things, if you think about it. I mean, it's definitely higher in comparison to like previous years, and we need to figure out why that happened. But like, other than that, it's not really a problem. Well, I mean, obviously, it's a problem for the people who get infected by it, but like, you know what I mean? It's not. It's not like it's some kind of epidemic. We've already lived through one of those, and it had hands much more, much more serious than this one. I forget. Do you still get suppressed for talking about COVID? I remember that used to be a thing where like people would get suppressed for discussing COVID on like their live streams and their content. Fucking stupid ass era of media. I still haven't gotten it yet, which is a big relief, but I got the feeling that that's not going to be the case forever. I'm going to try and hold out for as long as I can, though. I have sacrificed far too much to be playing stupid games at this point. Okay, bring this in. Okay, let's figure out the rest of this helmet. Okay, so this is going to kind of carve in like this. There we go. Okay, circle 1, circle 2, circle 3, circle 1, circle 2, circle 3. Okay, then we need the last one, which is going to be this one here. But for the time being, let's just check on how we're doing in terms of... Oh, yeah. These need to be a little bit smaller. Yeah, the Hawk Kerberos is in dire need of trimming. Okay, we'll make this one standalone and then move it in and adjust as required. Oddly enough, I think I got the sizes just right in the first try. Okay, bring it in here. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, we will do it like this. We're going to switch it here and clean this up a little bit. And then like this. Oh yeah, I finally got Mix It Up installed after all this time. It's been a little bit difficult setting it up. I don't think it's going to be quite as slick as it used to be for at least a little while, but it's functional at least. Yeah, I'm very proud of myself for finally taking that step. I've got the follower alerts, the whatchamacall, the subscription alerts and everything set up, so that everything that's like absolutely necessary is still around. I'll have to see what else I can leverage though, because from what I remember, it's like pretty powerful. I should be able to use it to control the rice beast redeems as well in the future and try to automate that a little bit. That way it's going to be a nice little surprise for me too, you know? I'll see somebody redeemed it and I'll be like, oh, nice little rice beast. Without having to dab away. I think I'm also going to be able to like automate the shoutouts now, which is going to be pretty dope. At least that's kind of what I think happens. I don't know. I'll have to wait for somebody to raid me, and then I'll see, and then that'll be like the moment of truth. I will either live in glory or die in cringe. Live cringe or die. Live base or die cringe. The hottest movie parody of 2023. Okay, switch this, and this. Yeah. Hey, you guys remember Threads? That thing that like Mark Zuckerberg tried to push to convince people to move away from Twitter. I learned that the White House recently got their account on there. God, I cannot wait to see if this actually changes anything. I don't think it will. I think Threads was kind of doomed from the start, but I kind of want to see what happens once the White House has to like delete their whoever hooked up their Instagram page to it to post pictures. Like, is it going to be like a breach of national security? Like, are they going to have to negotiate with the big man himself? Like, what's going to happen? What's the plan here exactly, fellas? Imagine if Joe Biden's iPhone gets hacked or some shit because Facebook had a data leak and now Threads is compromised. That sounds something stupid enough to happen in 2024. I feel like we've started being on the fringe because I feel like we're starting to see shit happen more and more quickly, right? Like we recently saw that FTX dog bastard Sam Bankman-Fried get clapped in irons for whatever bullshit he pulled with FTX. And now we're seeing like the fucking AI bros having a meltdown because of the fact that like the OpenAI CEO got also clapped for some reason. And I feel like we used to have at least a few, like 10 or so months of breathing room between like a new hot fresh technology opening being announced and it's suddenly getting shuttered and sundowned in the span of like a week. And now like we've had AI for like less than 6 months. I feel like I remember AI being a problem very late in September of last year. And now it's been like a year. So yeah, it's not actually anything new. But that being said, it is kind of like I feel like AI had a much shorter lifespan, right? Because like NFTs were big since like 2021 or some shit. And then AI art started knocking on the door sometime in late 2022. So yeah, we've had like I feel like NFTs died sometime early 2023, so they definitely had like a slightly longer run. Like crypto shit isn't fully dead, right? It's not. I don't think it's ever gonna fully die, but with your help, yeah. Anyway, like crypto shit is definitely still in the ring, so to speak, but it's not anywhere near like where it used to be, which is good. But I feel like we're seeing the faster and faster deterioration of this shit happen, and it's kind of incredible. Like I said, we used to have at least a half life of like 2 years before people started getting wise to the fact that some shit was a scam, and now I feel like we're just like speed running it. It's kind of fascinating from like an ontological perspective. Ontology in this case being like the creation and fall of said systems. But yeah, crazy stuff. I for one can't wait to see what happens next in 2024. People keep saying that this is like the era, like we've been living in like the fuck around era for a long time, and now we're starting to enter into the era of find out. And that's true. That is true and bad in a lot of ways. But hear me out. Sometimes the people who find out are the ones who kind of like have been haunting us and filling our inboxes and every kind of orifice that we have on our heads with garbage. So maybe it's not going to be so bad for us. Maybe there's still hope to be had, to be found. I want to believe. I want to believe that good things can still happen. They can still happen. They have to. But yeah. The tech thing made me remember this article that I read about a town in West Virginia. The municipality of Thurmond. Population total as of 2020, 5. Not 5,000, not 500, 5. You can literally count the population of Thurmond, West Virginia on your hand. Assuming you're not like a Yakuza and you've had your pinky chopped off for whatever reason. I can't speak to such fringe cases. But 5 people in a town. I think fucking that one hellhole in like Minneapolis, that town that's had like an underground fire for like 100 plus years. What was it called again? Centralia. Yeah, Centralia in Pennsylvania. I think Centralia has more people. Let me see. Centralia. Let's see. Population 5. No, they're tied as of 2020. There are 5 people in both Centralia and 5 people in Thurmond. We have got to get these people in some kind of Thunderdome death match. Like, we have got to see who's got it worse: an abandoned rail mining town, or the people who have lived under a literal portal to hell, or above, who lived above a literal portal to hell for the past 30 years. I'm not going to lie. I think the Centralians have it. I think the Centralians in this proposed death battle would be the ones with the upper hand for sure. Like it's like that. It's like that thing that happened in Dune in the early chapters, where like the like literal military or some shit from space was coming in to murder everyone, and Paul is like, "Oh fuck! Oh god, the military's coming!" And the sand people are like the fucking Dune natives or whatever they're called. I forget the name of the like native culture in Dune. The native culture in Doom are demons. Like, they're just literal demons. They come from hell. It's normal. But from Dune, I forget what the fictional people are called. Anyway, the people there are like, oh, yeah, those guys? Yeah, no, they're pretty tough. They killed like one of us and we murdered like 80 of them. You know, I think it's going to be a similar situation. You know, I feel like the Centralians have like some kind of weird, fucked up, mutated X factor. Unless, I don't know, maybe somebody from Thurmond has been like secretly training fucking Muay Thai for the past 30 years, because now there's nobody left in the town. I don't know. Having 5 neighbors doesn't sound too bad. I feel like I could live with 5 neighbors. From what I understand, it's like almost all like old people now. So I don't think it would be a particularly active place. But yeah, meeting your neighbors would be much easier if you knew there were only like 5 of them. It's like in Stardew Valley when you have to talk to everybody in town on your first day. I remember struggling with that a lot. Like, it's always quests where you have to like find everybody to talk to that I end up like having the hardest time with, I've found. I need to make this last helmet a little bit bigger. Which is a problem because it's the only one that's like intersected by another helmet. But yeah, like I said, Thurmond, West Virginia came about because like a dude got like the rights to own a large amount of land sometime in the, I don't even know when he got the rights to do it, but it essentially became a rail coal mining town. Like, the idea was that they would set up the coal mining operation in order to fuel the rail cars that came by. But unfortunately, as rail cars became more and more efficient, the need for such constant refueling actually kind of diminished. So what ended up happening is that everybody, it became a ghost town, basically. Actually, I think I'm going to erase this part here of the other helmet. You know what I should actually do before any of this? I should actually copy and paste the layer and have a backup of it saved in case I do something profoundly stupid. There we go. Okay, grab these. Grab these and grab these. Grab this one too and this one as well. Okay. Let's cut this part here. Okay, erase these parts here. Wrong one. That's okay. Okay. I feel like I erased something very large and important. Yes, I certainly did. Like, I'm like, huh, more of the line disappeared than I expected it to. Ay, Dios mío. Oh yeah, speaking of funny things that have been happening to other countries' economies, apparently Argentina has a new president, which I didn't know about until very recently. And apparently he's planning to dollarize, like one of the schemes that he's cooking is he's trying to see if dollarizing the Argentinian economy is going to be viable. Which, if you know like literally anything about the Argentinian economy, I don't think you could do much. Listen, the Argentinian economy is such that I think any change would be like, I don't know what you could do to make the Argentinian economy worse. It's that bad. So yeah, hopefully it works out in their favor. I mean, Ecuador did it, and we're Actually, maybe we should rethink this idea. Like maybe we should reconsider just real quick. But yeah. It's always kind of sad because, you have it's a little bit of that loss, right? Once again, it's like that feeling of loss. Like we used to have a currency, right? We had a currency, the sucre, and now that's gone. So like what do we do now? Like what that's like one part of our national identity that's gone forever, which is a bummer. But what can you do about it? Okay, is that everything in the panel? I think it might be. I need to draw this guy's gun still. Let's see. I can use the page 4 as a reference for how this should look. Right, I actually put it a little lower, but that reminds me how I did it. Okay, so we have the pommel of the gun here. Save this. Okay, and then from there, the handguard would be coming in this way, which means that the actual grip of the pistol would be coming in like this. Yeah, okay, I remember now. Okay. Erase that, and then we'll make the rest of the hand grip here, or the hand guard there. I'm sorry, that's not the hand grip. I think that's just called a grip on a gun. I mean, I don't know. I feel like with a lot of with guns, the terminology is very loosey goosey. As long as you just say kind of the general area plus what it's supposed to do, I think you can get away with a lot. Except when it comes to like stuff like the barrel and stuff. I feel like gun nerds get very touchy about those parts. Like I remember this one video of like this one dude who was like super into guns. Like it was apparently some YouTube series where like this one dude who was like an ex-military dude who knew a lot about guns went on like adventures in Fallout New Vegas with his friend. And during one of the videos they were like talking about like, you guys ever see like shotguns in video games and you see that they have like, or like any gun really, and it has like these holes either in the barrel or around the barrel? Apparently that used to be a thing for like heat management, but it's not really relevant anymore, and it doesn't really add anything or make it more powerful or in any way. But it's very cool. But yeah, I remember the guy who didn't know anything about guns called it a cheese grater, and you could like feel the other dude kind of like boiling like a tea kettle. Okay. Okay, put this here. Then have the two funnels here. Okay, and right, the jetpack. Okay, switch this around. Okay, then we have maybe the other part of the wings back here. There we go. Okay. Then after that, I like that I made Hawk's helmet take such a huge chunk of this picture, because now I can just kind of like I can just kind of half-ass the rest of it. The rest of like what's behind the curtain, so to speak. It is a good feeling. What was I doing? Right, the gun. Wait, no, I finished the gun. The other gun. Wait, no, I finished that too. Are we like done for today? I don't think. I mean, we could start this panel, but like, I mean, it's almost. We'll get a start on it. Okay, we'll make a compromise. We'll get a start on the panel, and then we don't obligate ourselves any further. Let me grab the helmet real quick first, because it looks a little wonky from this angle. Hang on. Settings, camera. How do I preset? Here we go. That makes this a lot easier to deal with. Okay. Droop. Droop. Okay, that's a little big. That's better. Okay. Let's at least get this helmet done, and then we'll call it a night. Maybe. Depends on my mood. God, I tell you, getting hangry is the worst thing you can do to yourself if you have like stream in like 2 or 3 hours. I straight up wanted to cancel the stream earlier because I was like, you know, I wasn't feeling people, so to speak. But I'm glad I got myself a bite to eat, because after that I was like revitalized. It helps a little bit that I got myself a few fancy drinks today at a local exported goods shop. Like there's, have you guys in your town, do you have those like I don't remember what like the exact name was. It's like a snack shop, basically. It's like a rare snack shop or exotic snack shop. They sell stuff like well, besides like rarer snacks from the West, they also sell stuff like Pocky and some Japanese sweets. This one sells like Latin sweets as well, you know, Latin American sweets. And I'm glad I checked there for something that I've been meaning to get. I've been meaning to try out malt sodas. Because apparently, I remember trying out a malt soda. I remember trying out Pony Malta when I was very, very young. Like I was like 6 or 7. Actually, younger than that, probably, because I was like, I remember trying it way before something that happened when I was like 6 or 7 happened. And I hated that stuff. But recently, I've had like some people tell me that like malt sodas are like pretty good, so I wanted to try and see if I can like reclaim that a little bit. I tried one. It's not. I tried I don't remember what it was. I don't, actually can't remember the name of the brand off the top of my head, but I tried a malt soda and it's not that bad. I don't know. Maybe It wasn't Boni Malta. It wasn't the same brand, so it's definitely. It might have been just that like Boni Malta had a different flavor and I didn't like it as much. But I do see how like it wouldn't be appealing to like a child's palate. Like it's not like a normal soft drink. Like nowadays I could probably drink club soda no problem, but as a child I probably would have. I've definitely hated club soda. Yeah, that's another. Wait, no, I'm thinking of malaria. I remember the club sodas for some reason they have quinine in them, which is like this medicinal herb, I want to say. I don't know. What is quinine anyway? I'm like 50-50 it's an herb. Hang on. It's a medication. Let's see. What is it made from though? Like what is it? Here we go. Synthesis. Cinchona trees remain the only economically practical source of quinine. Oh. It can be synthetically produced. Although apparently it's an alkaloid isolated from the cinchona trees, or the quinchona trees, which might be where the name came from. Quinine was used as a muscle relaxant by the Quechua people, who are indigenous to Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador, to halt shivering. Oh! Wait, so it's South American. I didn't know that. The Quichua would mix the ground bark of cinchona trees with sweetened water to offset the bark's bitter taste, thus producing something similar to tonic water. Yeah, I remember they used to give British soldiers these things they used to give British soldiers tonics with quinine in them in order to fight off malaria. Man, herbal medicine was so much cooler before, like homeopathic medicine crowd co-opted it. What if I just grabbed this and dragged it further inward? That actually looks a little better, yeah. Although I don't like how unrounded this back part is. Unrounded. That's not a fucking word. Unrounded. Calling myself out on this one. Self-flagellation is not funny to me unless it's about like language and speaking. In which case I will do it to myself constantly. I've been told that I have like a voice that makes it very very easy to convince other people. Like I will say something as bullshit and people will think it's a real thing until I clarify. And that's a problem because I love saying bullshit. So I think it's important to self-check every now and again, lest I end up pulling a Shakespeare and accidentally create a new word. Although now that I've put it like that, the prospect is very tempting. I'll have to meditate on this. I used to be against it for the principle of the matter, but I mean, you only got one life. Might as well invent a new word while you're at it. Okay, we'll add a thing for the sleeves here. But yeah, I remember I actually began to like enjoy the flavor of like club sodas and stuff like that for a little while. That or whatchamacall. I think it was either like plain so no, I didn't okay, no. There was like this soda water brand that I got one time, a whole like box full of stuff when like I try to like get a random thing to drink, right? And I got like a box of these soda water cans because it was cheaper to buy them in bulk from Costco or some shit. And I drank it and I was like, oh man, this stuff is like bitter. Like it wasn't like tonic water, I don't think, but it was like it was either tonic water or like club soda. I don't remember what it was. It definitely wasn't tonic water. I remember it having soda, so I think it was just ordinary soda water. But yeah, I remember becoming a big fan of soda water once I had to like go through that like whole box of cans because I don't like wasting food. If you've ever seen the fucking One Piece episode where they cover like Sanji's like backstory with Seth, you will never waste food again in your life. Like it Oda has made like a profound impact on my life with that shit specifically. But yeah, I ended up drinking the whole thing, and I ended up getting quite the growing quite affectionate of soda water. Did I forget Hawk's thigh holster? No, we're fine. Hmm. Maybe I should make the helmet a little smaller. Just a little bit, you know? No, that's too. That gives her too much neck. That might be problematic. There we go. Yeah, something like this is. Yeah, that's about right. Moving on. Actually, we should probably increase the size of these guys too. Okay, then moving on. Actually, Oh man, I really went hand on the wrinkles on the sleeve here. I hope that doesn't look too weird once I start coloring it. I need more pages like this. I think the reason that I've been struggling to get my feet off the ground so much with like the first 4 pages is because almost all of them had some kind of like wide panoramic shot in one of the panels, but this one less so. The problem is like we've hopped from like 3 different scenes. Like I think the reason it's taken a little while is because this issue in particular had a lot more scene hopping, right? Like, we had page 1, we had the plain open skies. That's fine. We can reuse that for later. Page 2, we had the campgrounds, the introduction to the campgrounds, which is, again, fine. But like then we also had the introduction to the inside of the dome immediately afterwards. And then, after that, we had this small kind of like smaller ruin. That's another scene. It's like the fifth scene. Like if you go back to the first comic, for example, if you go back to the first issue, I think there's a total of like 4 different scenes, right? There is the first hallway from page 1, then there's the hallway they run into in page 2, then that carries on until like page 5, at which point they burst out into the main room hallway, into like the main like foyer of the mansion, and like from there until like page 8, I think they stay in more or less the same place. I think the last page is the only one that has like a slightly different scene because it's from a different perspective, but it's still fundamentally the grand foyer. Whatever, that French thing that people call the entry to the establishment. So it had much fewer scenes relatively. Okay, then over here. Now, hang on, something ain't right here. Get rid of this part here. Also, this thumb is a little bit too fat. I need to increase the decrease. Okay. Okay, I know what these parts are. This is... Oh, wait, I think I get it. All right, we'll do this top part first then, for the sake of clarity. But yeah. Okay, putting this downward. Yeah, I talked earlier about how Argentina is like considering dollarizing, and given how Ecuador turned out, that might not be the hottest idea. But the problem is that I feel like maybe that's more like correlation rather than causation. It's entirely possible that Ecuador would have sucked regardless of dollarizing. Man, I hope things turn around for us sooner, or else I'm finished. Or no, I'm not finished. I'm gonna stay here for a while, but like, somebody important to me is gonna be finished. My family who's still there is gonna be finished, and that's not good. That's still not a preferable outcome. Man, I think I wouldn't mind going back to Ecuador if it wasn't so dangerous. Like, genuinely having to worry about the weather here every other day is unideal. Hang on. Do I still have the model for the gun in here? I probably do somewhere, right? Nope. Nope. Wait, yes? What the? Why did I flip this panel around? I guess that would make the speech bubbles flow a little better. That's weird, though. That is a very strange decision to make. But yeah, I've kind of Penrose triangled myself down here. You know what? I think I'm going to call it a day. I'll fix that some other time. I'm going to call it here. All right. Thanks to everybody who came by. I will be dropping a new schedule for the next week tomorrow. Have a good weekend. Later. Bye.